Today we're talking about 5 basic concepts of comprehension-based teaching that you must understand to maximize acquisition in your classroom. My name is Scott, and you're watching Immediate Immersion, where we're all about comprehension-based instruction in the modern language classroom. We'll be right back. One of the basic tenets of CI is that comprehension precedes production. Learners need to understand language through meaningful input before they can produce it effectively. Our goal as teachers is to get that input into their heads so that their minds can start building that map of how language works and build that confidence so that they can actually start production. Ways we can do that? We can use stories, visuals, and real-life context to provide rich input. I like to do conversations so where I can talk about real things with my students, things that they're interested in. Then we can do co-created stories together, and I'm always working to make sure that they're comprehensible as well as they're high interest for students by accepting their ideas to make the story come alive. I follow that up with reading so that we'll use the same kind of concepts that we've been working on in a new context so that kids can actually acquire the language through text as well. You want to start with simple, comprehensible language and then gradually increase the complexity as students' understanding grows. One way that I do this is I use a live Google Doc, one Google Doc per class per year. I just insert dates when we change a new date in there, and any new words that come up that my kids might not know, I'll type up there in the target language and then also in English so that they always have a running translation of what I'm saying. Now, I don't put everything on there, only the words that they don't know or words they ask about. And I don't put in phrases, generally speaking, or sentences. I'm doing it by words. And it's really important when you put a word up there that you stop and that you pause and you point to that word to give them time to see it and to register it. And every time that you use it again, you're going to go back and point and pause as well. As you work through the year, you'll be writing less and less words on the board because they know more language. In the beginning, it's a lot of words, but as the year goes on, it becomes less and less. Another key component of CI instruction are meaningful context. Language acquisition is so much more effective when the input is actually meaningful and relevant to the students' lives. So we work really, really hard to personalize the information, talk about relevant things, things that our students are interested in, things that they want to talk about, because then they're going to want to pay attention long enough and make meaning so that they can actually acquire the language. So a strategy is to incorporate students' interests and experiences into the lessons each and every day. We can use personalized questions and scenarios that relate to their daily lives to make the learning process engaging and relevant. What's great about teaching languages is we can talk about just about anything. As long as we're making it comprehensible and we're in the target language, we are hitting the standards. And when you talk about things that kids are actually interested in, then they are much more likely to be engaged in the language and even forget that they're learning a second language and just work on understanding what's being said. We've talked about the affective filter before. It's one of Krashen's hypothesis. We want to lower that affective filter. Now, affective filter for me just means stress. So I always want to lower that stress. And when you lower the stress in the classroom, you're actually helping the students to increase their confidence in the language, because a relaxed and supportive environment lowers the anxiety and enhances the language acquisition. And when they have low anxiety, the low stress level, they're enjoying themselves in class, they're more likely to engage in the classroom. So our goal is always to create a positive classroom atmosphere. We want to encourage participation. We want to celebrate those mistakes with high fives and as learning opportunities, because we all make mistakes. And then build a community where students feel safe to experiment with the language. That is so very important, because when they feel comfortable in the classroom, they're enjoying themselves, they're willing to take more chances, and therefore their confidence will build and maximize their language acquisition. Repetition is another key component of comprehensible input, but you just can't repeat for repetition's sake. You need to have some variation there, because repeated exposure to language in a varied contexts solidifies comprehension and retention, because it helps to build that map of how the language works in the head. And that's how we build confidence so that we can actually produce the language. So we want to always reinforce vocabulary and high frequency structures through different activities like storytelling, role playing, interactive games, texts, novels. All of this helps because they're in a variety of contexts. So kids aren't learning the vocab and structures through memorized stories, but in a wide variety of contexts. So the focus is not on the story or the context, but on the vocabulary and structures that we're trying to teach. This will help students see and use the language in multiple contexts, not just the ones that they're learned in, deepening their understanding. If they can only produce the structures and vocabulary in the same context in which they were learned, that's performance. That's a play, that's memorization, and that's not real language acquisition. We're striving for proficiency, and proficiency means, regardless of the context that a structure or vocabulary item was acquired, they can actually use those vocabulary and structures outside of the original context in a wide variety of contexts, wherever and whenever they come up. Our last key principle is active engagement. Our students cannot be passive passengers in the classroom. They need to be active drivers, because active participation in meaningful tasks promotes deeper comprehension and retention of the language. We want them to be active listeners so that they can be active producers eventually when that language gets in their heads. We want to implement interactive activities such as group discussions, problem-solving tasks, and hands-on projects, because these activities require students to actively use the language in real-world situations, reinforcing their comprehension and usage skills. Of course, with all of these, you want to provide the required scaffolding to help them become successful, because the more success they have, the higher their confidence, the lower their affective filter, and the more they will be willing to take risks to grow their language. Say goodbye to back-to-school stress. Scrambling to get ready for the new school year? Our back-to-school bootcamp can help. Register at mm.us/bootcamp and discover how to tackle classroom setup, lesson planning, and more with ease. Picture yourself starting the year organized and stress-free with a classroom that sparks joy and curiosity. With our expert guidance, you'll turn challenges into opportunities for success. Don't let back-to-school chaos hold you back. Register now and transform your teaching experience today. Here are 3 concrete strategies that you can implement today as you move into more comprehension-based instruction. First up, personalized storytelling. Use students' names and interests in the stories to capture their attention and make the content more relatable. So instead of a generic story about a trip to the zoo, create a narrative featuring students visiting a local zoo and interacting with the animals that they like. Next, question circles. Start each class with a circle of questions related to the day's lesson. Make sure these questions are comprehensible and encourage students to respond based on their own experiences. If the lesson is about daily routines, ask, "What did you do this morning?" and guide the discussion to practice relevant vocabulary and structures. Third, interactive whiteboard activities. Use interactive whiteboards like Padlet to create dynamic and engaging activities where students can participate in real time. Create a digital storyboard where students can drag and drop images to complete a story, then describe what they see using the target language. All of these ideas are things that you can implement today as you move into more CI instruction. By embracing these core principles and strategies, you can transform your classroom into a thriving environment where comprehension-based learning takes center stage. Implement these today and watch your students' language skills flourish. Thanks for watching, and if you found these strategies helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more game-changing teaching tips. And don't forget to check out one of the 2 videos YouTube thinks that you'll love. Keep transforming your classroom and happy comprehensible input.